Welcome to Storytime at the Rubus, a weekly podcast about the Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival. I'm your host, Sharla.
And I'm Daniel.
And this is Chelsea, aka the Hygiene Queen.
Chelsea, we are thrilled to have you on this week. How have you been doing?
I've been doing pretty well. Super excited. It's still considered Bonnaroo lineup month, so.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's January for what, 2 more days? It might be February by the time people are listening to this. But yeah, it still feels kind of fresh and new, right?
It does. And then before we know it, we're going to get into some other exciting stuff.
Well, be careful how you phrase that. There's a lot of stuff to go around at Roo. Yeah.
There is.
Yeah. Hey, so Chelsea, for anybody that may not know you super well, can you kind of introduce yourself? I know you're pretty active on Discord and InfoRoo and Reddit. Can you tell everybody where they may have seen you?
Yes. So I'm Chelsea. My first Bonnaroo was 2019. And since I got back from then, Bonnaroo has been my life, whether that be the Facebook page, Reddit, where I am also a moderator. And then the moment I found out about the Rubus Discord, I had to be there, and we're like family in there talking Roo 365. So
absolutely, that's the best way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
We're so family. We have like inside jokes about cheese. I don't even know where it started.
Eggs.
Yes. Long eggs.
Yeah. So for anybody that hasn't popped in on our Discord, we've had this long running inside joke about cheese. Like somebody had a flag that said "Eat cheese and sin," and we've run with it
Madison,
for like it.
yeah.
Madison did.
Yeah.
We've run with it for like a year. That's just our thing now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's on a call. We were doing a call one time, and someone said, "What's everyone's favorite cheese?" while we were waiting.
Oh, yep.
Chelsea, what's your favorite cheese?
Oh man. Probably Gouda.
Ooh,
That's
can't
a
go
good
wrong
one.
with that. I always
But
ask.
I love crumbly cheeses too. So your goat cheeses and all that too.
The first thing that comes to mind for me is I always ask for pepper jack when I'm getting a sandwich at Subway.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah.
I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's my go-to there. What about you,
I
Charlotte?
really like brie.
Charlotte does love brie.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's an acquired taste.
So pro tip for everyone, Valentine's Day is coming up in 2 weeks. Back in the day when they had this at Kroger, I would get Charlotte this heart-shaped brie that had some kind of like syrup all over it. And is that how you discovered that was your favorite?
Yeah.
With that, get some graham cracker type things to dip it with.
I don't know if it counts as a cheese, but I really love me some queso also.
Queso.
That's cheese.
Cheese.
That's
Yeah.
totally cheese. In fact, that's just kind of sort of what we ate for dinner tonight. You
Yeah,
put that on
true,
some chicken.
yeah.
That was good. All right. So good choices there. Chelsea. So tell us a little bit about like what you're looking forward to. We were talking about this lineup, like what's some of your must-see acts?
Okay, so Joe Russo's almost dead.
Yeah.
I unfortunately had to miss their set at Hula this year. So when they were on the lineup for Bonnaroo, I was like, thank you for that. And then T-Pain, because I am a millennial.
So I guess you weren't there the last time he was there. He was in that tent and the crowd was just overly massive. You could not get anywhere close. I hope they learned their lesson and put him on Which.
Yeah, we tried. It was like 2018, I think. We tried to go and you just could not get in. It was just a swarm of people.
It was insanity. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'll be at that show with you.
Mm-hmm.
What else are you looking forward to?
Let's see. Obviously, Cage the Elephant has been a long time goal of mine. Can I plug the Super Jam?
Yeah, absolutely. You're looking forward to that dashboard.
Like I said, I am a millennial.
We will be there screaming infidelities with you. So you brought up something just a moment ago. Actually, I'm going to play an audible on you with this. You were talking about being at Halloween. I have had so many people talk to me about wanting to get me down there, and I want to so bad. I've just got to make the timing work. What did you think about that down in Florida?
Okay, well, so I am one of those people. Love is not a strong enough word.
Really? Wow.
Love is not a strong enough word. The people who are there are so incredible, and for me, that's what makes it. And the things that you will like stumble across when you're walking around Spirit Lake, especially like at nighttime, is just so much fun. And of course, as someone who more recently, like the last 3 years, has gotten into jam, there's a good amount of that there. So that makes my soul happy musically. But I love it. I love it. Yeah.
So let me get your opinion on this aspect. One of the things that I really find compelling that I want to get there for is the ungovernable, more Wookiee nature of it. Is that something that falls in line with what you experienced there? Is it kind of more chaotic than other festivals?
Ooh, I don't actually, I didn't stumble across anything too chaotic, but I heard some stories about some things that I probably can't repeat here that I would say are chaotic.
So that tells me yes, in a small way. Yeah, I've got to try it for myself. So,
Yeah.
Charlotte, are we ever going to get down there?
Probably someday.
Usually the weekend before Halloween, right?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, full transparency. I've told a lot of people this on the Discord, but like we're intending to get back to Burning Man this year, but that's kind of my plan B if we can't come across tickets.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've heard way too many good things from people that I trust to not try it one of these days.
Well, and if you guys do go to Burning Man, there is always 2025, and me and Maddie will force you and Sharla to come with us.
Oh, okay. I'm okay with being forced in this instance, especially if you two are there.
Yeah.
That ensures a good time. Well, Chelsea and Charlotte too, we wanted to do kind of a theme for this episode. We did something last year where we kind of looked back at what worked and what didn't the previous year at Rue. I think they're doing a lot of things right these days. The customer experience is honestly, I don't know about how you guys feel, but I feel like leagues better than what it used to be.
Significantly better.
They tend to be listening to the community a lot these days, taking suggestions. You heard what Brad and Corey said when we interviewed them a few weeks ago. They are actively looking at Reddit and some of the other places to get feedback and everything. So I don't know if they're going to listen to this one or not, but we reached out to a lot of people this past week and just wanted to know, hey, what worked really well for you at Rue 23 and what do you think that they could improve on for 24? That's kind of the theme of the week. We're going to get to that here in just a few minutes after our break. So future Daniel and Charlotte are going to thank our Patreons and talk some totem stuff, and we'll be right back with Chelsea to talk about what worked and what didn't.
It's future Daniel and Sharla, and it is a day later.
Yeah, I'm going to be transparent. After we talked with her last night, I just kind of crashed and just wanted to lay down and watch my shows and stuff.
Your shows, your programs?
Yeah. Actually, we haven't done picks in a while. I'm looking forward to watching episode 2 of Masters of the Air, the new Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg joint that's on Apple.
I'm looking forward to watching the next episode of True Detective season 4.
Oh yeah, that's been crazy good. Okay, we didn't
That's been amazing.
We didn't really intend to do picks, but I guess those are our picks for this week, right?
Yeah.
But Charlotte, what we're really here for is to thank our Patreons. Do you want to go through the list first?
Yes, absolutely. You know what I was thinking about?
What?
You never called the names.
Do you want me to do it?
Yes, I want you to call the names this week.
I don't think I've ever done that.
No.
Okay, I'll go for it. So if I mess anybody's name up, I sincerely apologize.
Okay, just do the first names and do the names that they go by.
Okay, you're a pro at this. I see. All right, here we go. We have Amber, Andrea, JB, Samuel, Austin, Madeline, James, Chelsea. Hey, we were just talking with her. Ryan, Chris, Skylar, Daniel. 2 dogs that are going crazy over here right now. Ernst, Bill, Harris, Keith, Casey, Chloe, Dave, Amanda, Aaron, Nick, Maddie, McFerg, Kent, Randy, Greg, Eric and Ben, Evan, Jay, the other Chloe, Queen Chloe, and Sean. That's everybody that has signed up at patreon.com/Rubus. You can go there and sign up. Every cent goes to the Totem Foundation.
Okay, so the first Chloe is probably a queen as well because
all
Chloes are queens.
Yeah, that is very true.
I have determined that.
That is, that's a good point. I've noticed that as well. And you know what? I am not going to edit this because Charlotte's 2 dogs are having a straight up brawl over here right now. I'm just going to leave this in. Like, I promise they're playing, but it is insane. So if you hear that in the background, that's what's going on.
2 chihuahuas.
2 chihuahuas, yeah. Do we need to break this up? This is getting insane over here. Like,
no,
clearly they're having fun, but oh my gosh, I can't take this violence. Anyways, thanks again to everyone who is a part of this. It is at patreon.com/Rubus. Everything goes to the Totem Foundation. And by the way, we have that New York thing coming up here in just, a few weeks? 3 weeks away now?
Yes, You want to tell them about it since you'll be there?
Yeah, so Evan has hooked us up. We're going to be at, I hope I'm saying this right, La Palapa on Sunday, February 18th from 3 to 6 p.m. It's in the East Village. I've only ever been to New York once, so I don't know the neighborhood, but I'm looking forward to it. Evan knows the place, so him and Skylar are going to show me around. And I talked with them. I'm just going to let them do the presentation. I'm going to do like just a quick 2-minute intro and just talk about the bus for anybody that doesn't know about it. And I'm going to let them take it away and talk about the Totem Foundation. So if you're in the area, please come down. If you go to twitter.com/totemfnd, the pinned post will take you to the sign up for it.
So we would love to see you guys come out. If you are anywhere near the New York area, please, please, please just come and hang out with us. I mean, that's all we want is for you to just come hang out. I mean, it's not a fundraising event. It's literally just a Bonnaroo hangout. I mean, we just want you to come hang out, learn about Totem, just meet some cool people.
Yeah, I have told a lot of people, and I will be transparent with everybody listening to this, we're not really focusing on raising money in this first year of Totem Foundation. I mean, I'm not going to turn it down if somebody offers anything because it is a 501c, but mainly we just want to make connections and get people to know about it, first of all. And a lot of people have gotten to know about it. We've gotten a ton of signups for the mentorship program and a good number of applications for the scholarships.
But on that note, we could still use some more applications for the scholarship program.
Yeah.
So if you know anyone who wants to go to Bonnaroo and has not got their ticket, or even if they have got their ticket and they could really, really use a scholarship to Bonnaroo, let them know about our scholarship program.
Yeah.
totemfnd.org. They can apply there. totemfnd.org.
The deadline for the scholarship application and the mentorship program is the end of February. So please go sign up as a mentor or mentee if you haven't already. And if you know anybody that is in a financially disadvantaged situation that wants to come to Bonnaroo and contribute something to the community, send them our way as well so they can fill out the scholarship form. And I think with that, we can go back to our talk with Chelsea.
Yes.
Let's go.
Okay, we're back with Chelsea, and we're going to talk about some things at Bonnaroo.
Yeah, so let me kind of set the scene for this. So throughout this past week, we asked all of our friends on Discord, and I asked on Twitter about like what worked and what didn't last year. We just wanted to kind of poll the crowd about any issues that anybody may have had last year, and also ask about like what worked. So I wanted to keep this kind of half and half. We don't want to make this sound like, oh, we're just harping on Roo and the people that run it. There was a lot of things that they did great. So I want to make sure that we talk about both sides of the coin.
Right, positive.
We want to praise them as well as offer some constructive feedback. Right. Sound good to you guys?
Sounds good.
All right, so let's go for it. So we're going to start with our Discord friends first. And by the way, everybody can join this Discord, right, Sharla?
Right. All they have to do is look for the link tree on our Twitter or our Instagram account and just click that and then click on Discord.
Right. On the Rubus Twitter, not the Totem.
Yes, on the Rubus.
Check the profile of the Rubus Twitter and there will be a link there so you can hang out with us and Chelsea on Discord. All right. So let's dig into this. I asked about this last week. I just want to know like what worked and what didn't. And I think some of you can take a wild guess about one of the first issues that people were talking about. I'm going to try to put this delicately. It was a shitty situation for some people. Like, I'm trying to be a little funny, but it was kind of serious in some cases. Yeah. So some of the first people to bring this up on our Discord was Lisa and Ashley. They were talking about how the toilet situation in some of the camps was not ideal. Lisa, for instance, said the group toilets and showers were horrible. I don't know if it was everywhere else, but the trailers are not it. The outdoor stalls are the best. They should do more of those. I do know in our case in group, they were good enough, but there was gigantic lines every morning. I know that's something that Corey and Brad talked about. They're looking at potentially adding more in places where there were lines.
Right. Well, it seemed like they were fine the first few days. And then when it got to about Friday and Saturday, the toilets started doing that typical where they don't flush because we had the flushable ones and they started doing the where they don't flush. So they were just kind of not necessarily overflowing, but they were filled to the brim. And so there were only like a few you could use. I mean, not to be graphic, but that's what it was.
Yeah, let's not.
You know, they only have so much staff and you don't expect, you know, some volunteer or some, you know, staff that's making minimum wage or less or whatever to clean that up. That's, you know, so there's only so much I feel like that can be done in some instances, but also nobody needs to be walking in literal feces.
You don't want a Woodstock 99 situation.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I asked about this. There was a pretty bad situation where it was, and again, I don't want to set a scene too visual about this, but stuff was overflowing and getting underneath people's tents. It was bad. And I asked about this, and Ashley did some sleuthing for me. This was posted on Reddit 7 months ago, so right after Rue last year. It was Plaza 2, where a lot of people had a very bad situation. And apparently, what that was worth was people giving them like $15 meal vouchers, which I don't know about that. I feel like they should have had like camping refunded or whatever. But Chelsea, did you ever run into anything like this? What was your experience?
So I did not personally this year. Everywhere that I went was pretty good, but I also did not venture into the porta potties at Where in the Woods, which
Ooh.
by talking to other people, that's where a lot of people seem to have issue.
hmm I didn't use it there, but I did hear about that. And we should give Bonnaroo credit. Like they are running, what is it, like the fourth largest city in Tennessee that week?
It changes depending on how
Yeah,
many people they
it's
have,
somewhere
but
in the
it's,
top
yeah,
10. And it is a logistical miracle that they make as much work as it does. And it's inevitable that sometimes
right.
things like unintentionally fall through the cracks. But this is one where it's like, yeah, this got to stay clean. It's a health issue and everything. But I'm glad to hear that you had a pretty good experience.
Yeah, that's good. I guess it
Yeah.
just came down to where you were camped. But also to give them credit, the toilets that are inside Centeroo, the permanent ones, I mean, as far as those flushing, there was never any issue. I mean, they were fine the whole time.
Oh, yeah. That's kind of where to go if you can plan it out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you know.
I basically, if I'm in Centeroo, I only go to the permanents.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man. Well, me and Charlotte were there in the before times before those came along, and it wasn't always as serene as that provides for.
Right.
That's nice. Oh, and by the way, we should give a piece of advice for first timers, especially dudes. If you go over there, there's two separate lines for number one or number two. So just kind of go take a look.
Now that's for dudes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it not for ladies?
For the women, there is keep the line moving. There's always open stalls. There's no need to wait in a long line and create an unnecessary line. Just keep it moving.
I've noticed a lot of people in those permanent bathrooms, they'll just see that when you first walk in, that first row is full, and they won't move forward to check to see if those ones are open.
And they will be waiting for one individual person to come out. And no, there's going to be an open stall somewhere. So all you have to do is just keep moving. And I feel so bad when I go around people, but I'm just like, no, there's open stalls. And I've even tried to like tell people, hey guys, there's open stalls. Hey, there's open stalls. And just,
Yeah.
no. So I've just,
Well, that whole communication system works pretty well on the dude side. It's a little vulgar, so I don't want to like repeat too much of it on the podcast because it kind of turns into like it turns into the middle school boys room over there. But they let you know pretty quick, like, hey, if you just got a number one, just come around, my dude. It's okay. But yeah, guys, you know what I'm talking about. You've seen the chalk on the walls. All right. I don't think we need to go into this in much more detail. Yes. All right. I did want to come out with something that someone said that worked well. So this is Chris H on our Discord. He says, I think a big improvement was the Wayfinder system that they've been implementing, like how they had the street signs and grid system throughout the campground. I agree tremendously. They have had street signs up at like the main intersections out in the campground, and they have that grid system that he's talking about, mainly as an emergency response protocol. So, like, if there's something crazy that happens, they can send an EMT, say, like, oh, G42, like they're playing Battleship or something like that.
Yeah.
But you can also cheat. So, like, if you look at that grid system and tell a buddy, like, hey, I'm at this number, this letter, or whatever it is, they can find you a little easier. There's no perfect system, but that has worked pretty well. Did either of you notice that this past year? Did it help you out at all?
No, I actually didn't notice it, but that does sound really cool and efficient.
Yeah, we still base our directions on like, oh, turn left at the Atlanta Falcons thing and then right at the purple Barney the dinosaur or whatever. There's a million different things. How about you, Chelsea?
I tend to use that method as well. I also was camped in Moon Colony this past year, and I was at like the very end of a row. So like getting to like where my home base was crazy easy. And the campgrounds, most of the places where I'm going, I'm using more, okay, just keep walking towards Plaza, insert number. But I hadn't thought about it from the emergency responder perspective. And that's where I find that to be really important, actually.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, look at it from the perspective of them putting together a miniature city for us. You have to have emergency services because you never know what might happen. And you can't expect some kind of medical personnel to know the directions based on like turn left at this meme and right at this one. They need to know exactly where to go. So that helps them tremendously. That was a good call from Rue to implement that, what, like 2-3 years ago, something like that. Chelsea, let me ask you this to set up our next suggestion that we got from somebody. How was exiting on either Sunday night or Monday morning for you?
So I left before the storm hit.
Oh, smart.
If you will. However, the rest of my group stayed behind. They were on the luckier side, and I think it took them about an hour and a half to get out. But I know that that was not the case for a large amount of people.
Our buddy Andrew is listening to this right now and be like, oh, that's nothing. How long did it take Andrew and JB to get out? Like
it took Andrew at least 3 or 4 hours just to drive out of the fire lanes.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. So yeah, Chelsea.
Of his campsite.
Chelsea, you made a good call about leaving before the storm hit. It was insane. But I'm saying all this to set up what our friend Ryan on Discord said. We were talking about the signage. He suggested that, okay, well, here's what he said. Exiting signage. After the Sunday night max exit, I feel like I realized how little signage for exiting there is, at least deep into the campgrounds. That was one thing that I feel like could have been an easy improvement, is having signs that they put up maybe Sunday night to let you know which way to go to get out.
Yes.
Because when we left, at least from group, it wasn't very clear. In fact, all of group got emailed one thing like, hey, you're going to be able to go out the back way. But then when everybody started leaving, that was absolutely not the case. There was a little bit of disorganization there, right?
So I don't know if anyone else saw it, but to bring up his point about Sunday night, when we left the arch on Sunday night, after the headline or whatever, there was a car, like you came out of the arch and there was a car like maybe 100, 200 feet in front of the arch trying to drive through the crowd.
What?
Remember, it was an elderly.
Oh, I remember that.
I mean, I don't mean to be, but it was, I think it was an elderly person and they were trying to drive through the crowd and they obviously just didn't know how to exit.
Signage would work wonders in a case like that, I would assume. So it's like just arrows pointing, hey, this way to I-20 or something like that. So people just don't go through the maze of the campgrounds trying to find their way
out. Or the
out.
maze of the streets that people are walking on, especially at that time.
Yeah, because let's face it, Sunday night, everybody's wasted one way or another, exhausted or whatever. So it's not the best recipe in some cases.
Right.
We've all seen the naked guy next to church boners when you're leaving. Things get a little crazy on Sunday night. Chelsea, anything else from you on that kind of point on signage and like traffic in the campgrounds before we move on?
Yeah, I definitely agree. In particular about signage for leaving. And also, I would say each year that I've come in, I've been relatively lucky to have a volunteer who's like very much like giving me directions to where I'm going. But I can imagine a scenario where maybe they aren't as staffed at whatever time I arrive, and even arrival may be a little bit tricky with the lack of signage that they have about getting where you're going. Yeah, that could be improved.
Okay. I feel like that's an easy improvement for them to make too. That is difficult. All right, let's go to the next thing. I'm going to hit up our buddy JB. You guys know him. He's been on the show many times. He's in our group camp. He's one of the people that started this whole cheese thing. So he has a list of things he loved and things that he didn't love so much. So I'm just going to go through the whole thing and we'll talk about it. So things he loved: Cracker Barrel.
Yes.
Yes.
The free tacos at breakfast.
Like free breakfast tacos.
That was amazing. Stages in the campgrounds. I think everybody agrees with that.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
Great sponsors that goes along with the Cracker Barrel thing. Phenomenal acts. The tower entrance being back open was clutch. Everybody agreed with that. That was a cluster when it was only the arch entrance a couple of years ago. Things that he didn't love so much.
And read his last thing he loved.
Oh, the last thing he loved is Immaculate Vibes. But that's every year, man. All right. Things he didn't like so much. He didn't like missing the screens at the tents. But apparently, from what Brad and Corey told the What podcast, that's being fixed, and it looks like we can expect those back again.
Yeah, we did see that several times on the
Oh yeah.
Reddit. I'm sorry, the Twitter. We thought, oh, can they bring back the screens? And we've seen it on Reddit just multiple times. But according to the What podcast, those are going to be coming back. So
yeah.
I need those back as someone who likes to kind of like sit down and hang out in the back, especially in your kind of like afternoon and sunset sets. I like to hang out in the back, and having those screens just
exactly.
The biggest complaint that I heard from so many people was the Noah Khan show, because that was massive and at a tent, and if there was a screen there, it would have been a much better experience for more than half of that crowd. So I think Rue learned their lesson. They told Barry and Taco they're going to bring those back pretty much. So yeah, thanks team, we did it. They're bringing them back. All right, other things that JB didn't like as much. We already talked about this. Traffic heading out of group was a mess. Poor JB had to sit there for forever. And I did want to take a minute to talk about this. FIVO. I know why JB has an issue with FIVO. That is what's used for signing people up for group, right, Sharla?
Yes, that is if you are doing a group camp at Bonnaroo. So a group camp meaning 24 or more, and you're in the group camp area. So you actually have a group leader, a designated group leader. You sign up under that group leader, etc. FIVO is the software, the third company, the third-party software that Bonnaroo
I guess they
contracts out, uses to sign up individuals under your group camp, because you have to purchase a group pass, which is $60 per person.
So you work closely with JB and Andrew on our group situation, and I feel like you could probably speak a little authoritatively on why JB didn't like it so much.
It's just a very complicated system. It's difficult to register individuals on there is the biggest issue with FIVO for me. For example, if someone is in their car and they have 3 people that's in their car, because group gets one car pass for every 3 people, and they say, oh, well, I'm just going to buy my I'm going to buy everyone's group pass, and then we're going to get our one car pass, and they're going to do it all on one credit card. You don't really get the names of the other 2 people necessarily. You might just get one name or things like that. It's just very difficult to keep up with every single person that's in your camp.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a lot of things on there that could be resolved and could be more efficient on the FIVO system.
Yeah, I agree. I have spoken with some of them before. I'm like, hey, this is a little complicated. And they know. The one thing that I had suggested is if somebody is coming and making a group for the first time, they're kind of just throwing them into the deep end of the pool and not teaching them how to swim. I know that they're looking at potentially doing some kind of like training or some kind of article on the website that would support that. So that would be my suggestion with that, is like, hey, a little bit more support with that whole system.
Right.
It's doable, but it is insanely difficult. And it feels like that's a little bit too much of a burden for like a customer sometimes.
Right, exactly. I know, just for example, I gifted someone in our group a pass last year. I was like, oh, I'll buy your group pass, and you can just ride in the bus with us. And when I went in to buy his group pass, FIVO changed my name to his name, and then suddenly he had 2 group passes. So it's just a lot of stuff like that, which I think could be easily resolved.
All right. So yeah, let's not harp on it too much. And yeah, and Chelsea, I know you didn't have to deal with that, but yeah, trust me.
No, so I didn't, but I do think something you said, Daniel, made me think of maybe a video explaining group.
Yeah, group is so much fun. Like, it's always a party because, Red Roo or Squeak Squad or whoever it may be always has something going on. And I'm so happy that Bonnaroo is working with groups and leveraging the stuff that people want to put together. That's definitely a big positive that we need to give them props on. But there's kind of like a big, I don't know what to call it. It's tough to get over the hump that is group, because it is a lot of burden that is put on people that are organizing the groups. And I wish it was easier.
Chelsea, I think you're right on the money about doing a video for that. Daniel, didn't you say that Bonnaroo mentioned they were working on more videos out there?
Yeah, Corey mentioned that to us when we interviewed.
Yes.
So maybe that's something they could consider.
Yeah, I think that'd be really
That's part of why I thought of it, is because they had brought up the fact that that's something they're considering doing. And I think that could be a perfect video idea for them, is a good explanation of group.
That would be fantastic. I love that. And we see it a lot on the Reddit too. We'll see, oh, I have 16 people and my friends all want to come in together. What do I do? And it's like, well,
Yeah.
get 6 more and be a group, or, or what is group? We see questions like that. So I think a video would be a fantastic idea for that.
Let me couch like the slight criticism that I have for them in this by really bragging on them on the same aspect. I really feel that group is the future of camping at Bonnaroo. When you have a lot of people that have their own theme, they put something together like the monkey bar at our camp or whatever, or the beer exchange with, Red Roo or whatever it may be. That's something that they have really leveraged very well, like I said, and they have encouraged it very well. And I feel like that area is going to do nothing but grow and improve the whole experience for the whole campground community. It's really become kind of like another version of Burning Man out there, in that how you have a lot of independently organized events, which they kind of sort of support. But it needs more support to get to that point. It needs to be a little bit easier. It needs to be a little bit more supported. It's supported fantastically in terms of like events being on the schedule, but I feel like it needs to be supported a little bit more in terms of like, hey, let us help you make this happen, in terms of getting people in the carpool, getting past the frustration that is FIBO sometimes. It just feels like something's holding them back there. And if they could get past that barrier, group could really make the whole place shine even more.
Oh, exactly.
But we could do a whole episode on this. Yeah.
Yeah,
and I know
We
that.
Can I also brag on them from the standpoint that I feel like a lot of other music festivals would, if they had a group scenario, would cap the amount of people who are allowed in it. And instead, Bonnaroo allows it to grow to whatever size it is, and then seems to make it work with the rest of how camping is
exactly. Yes.
set up around that. And that's huge to me.
And one last thing I'll say before we move on, like I want to be transparent. We did it for the first time last year, and we half knew what we were doing and half absolutely did not. Like some of it was on us. Like we thought we had a plan for like a number of things, but it just fell apart once we got there. And that was because
there were some lessons learned.
Yeah, we didn't know what we were doing in some cases. Like I will totally take responsibility for that. I know better about a lot of things now for this coming year. But again, that's where I feel like other groups could support new ones. Bonnaroo can support new ones, but we've beat this to death now.
Yeah, we have.
All right. So one thing that I did want to talk about that I know improved this past year compared to the year before it, back in 21 or 22, I'm sorry. Chris brought this up. He says, I think the security staff showed a lot of improvement last year, especially compared to 22. So if we can keep security being a positive, that would be great. Chris is on the money with that, because in 22, oh boy, there was some situations that were not great. There were a lot of security people, and I don't know with what company. I don't know how the contracts and subcontracts work with that. I don't know how else to put this. Security people were making very lewd and inappropriate comments to a lot of Bonnaroovians. I was not happy about it. But last year, it seems as if there was better screening in their hiring processes, or maybe there was some training beforehand, because I heard far, 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 far fewer stories coming from Bonnaroovians about that.
Yeah, as far as actual security, I didn't hear anything.
How about you, Chelsea? Had you heard anything? Had you noticed the improvement last year?
I can just speak from the standpoint that everyone I interacted with was kind, and also I felt like on social media after 2022, it was post and comment after comment about how bad security was. And I don't really remember anything like that showing up anywhere post 2023. So
yeah, same. I can't recall a single comment from anybody this past year. It seems like things drastically improved. It seems like there was definitely some action taken behind the scenes, and that is very, very much appreciative, because Bonnaroovians need to feel safe, because, we talked about this during that interview. Brad was talking about how he loved that Bonnaroo was a place where people can just unapologetically be themselves.
Right.
And if you have somebody that, indirectly works for the festival that's saying something very inappropriate, it makes you feel less comfortable about that. So that was the case in 22, but it definitely was not this past year. Like, again, I can't recall a single comment from somebody saying something negative about security. So yeah, that was a huge improvement, and that's definitely, definitely appreciated. All right, next one. this was something that I didn't realize was kind of an issue before I read this. And again, let me couch a critique by bragging on them first. We have a lot of really great food options at Rue these days, like
Yeah.
insanely good, high tier restaurant quality stuff.
We could do a whole episode on just the food, I feel
Oh,
like.
yeah. Well, you just set off the bat signal for Chloe.
Yeah.
They talk about, yeah, hi, Chloe. That's why your ear was burning. Anyway, so like we had a lot of good stuff like island noodles, hot chicken, but we got some comments from Che and Ryan about how a lot of the really good ones were right next to each other, and it kind of caused like a bit of a
Cluster,
crowd
yeah.
cluster.
Mhm.
Yeah. Chelsea, what was some of the favorite things that you ate this past year?
So I'm a sucker for some spicy pie, just like everybody else. And I ate a boatload of island noodles. There was somewhere that I stopped by that I did not catch the name of that had some mini kind of donut situation that was so good. Yeah,
Oh
but
man, was it the old Amish donuts? I don't know if they're
No,
around
they're
anymore.
not around anymore.
no, they're not around anymore. So after 2020, I believe they stopped doing the music festival circuit. The Amish
Yeah, I
donut
heard that from someone.
people. Yeah, they made a post about it because I followed them
Yeah.
and whatnot. But it was someone else. But it was
Oh,
really really good. I wish I could remember the name of whatever vendor that was.
mhm.
So
So I know what they were talking about in terms of a lot of them being in the same spot. I kind of dealt with that when I was getting some Hattie B's hot chicken one day, which I waited a while for it, but it was worth it. That was amazing. I do think that's a good idea to spread it out a little
Mhm.
bit. In the past, I know they've had a lot of food trucks in the same location, but it does cause some crowding issues, and I think that's something that's worth considering.
So the best food I ate was some kind of, well, it was I don't know if it had a name necessarily, but it was right on the corner where you're leaving Witch and you're going to the walk field. It was like right there, smack on the corner. And they were serving jambalaya, but you could also just get a thing of beans and rice for like $10.
Oh, I got some of that too. Yeah.
Oh, it was so good. And I was eating it at 3 o'clock in the morning with JB, and we were sitting there in the field.
I think
And
that
yeah,
might
it
be
was so
the
good.
I think that might be the spot where it was kind of overcrowded.
Yeah. It always gets crowded over there.
It does feel like a lot of the food booths, like 2/3 of them, you go to it and it's like the same thing. There's like spicy pie, two or three other things, but
Mhm.
there's just like one or two spots where all the really good stuff is. I don't know if
yeah,
that's
I feel like they've done a good job of separating what kind of food all across everywhere, but they haven't thought about, we know, because we know they're looking on social media, they know the spots where everyone wants to go, and they need to also consider spreading those out a little bit and not just spreading styles of food.
Mhm.
yeah, I agree. One of the other cluster spots that I can think of is that big row of vendors that is to stage right. I had to think about it for a minute, but yeah, stage right of the witch stage. There's a ton. I want to say like more than a dozen that are right there. And sometimes the lines can get so long that they go into where everybody is sitting and laying out there for a show at Witch. And that always has been kind of tricky. Especially was tricky when the line to get into the pit was on that side too.
Oh yeah.
But now they put it on the other side, probably maybe for that reason. I don't know. All right, let's move on. We got another list of good and not so good from Evan. You heard from him recently. So good, 2023 in its entirety.
Yes, I would concur.
But one of his critiques is, and I'm just going to read what he said here. I would love to see Jamtrack be an actual robust system that you can actually use to get around. It seems like it's been basically a novelty that's a lot more effort than it's worth. Now I love Evan, but I'm gonna very slightly disagree with him. I felt like it was definitely usable and it was definitely improved this past year over the year before that. But it does seem like something that they're continuing to actively improve every year.
Yeah. Mhm.
I really wish that they would have two lines that would run in either direction,
Yeah.
but I understand that that's
Yeah.
complex and that's
Mhm.
something they've got to work towards and everything. Chelsea, did you ever use Jam Tracks this past year?
So I have not used it yet. But the last 2 years where Jamtrack has been around, I've been camped really close
Mhm.
to Centeroo and haven't really needed to use it. I
Yeah.
absolutely would. If this year, for instance, I end up in the middle of nowhere where it's a 45-minute walk, then certainly I would give it a try. I definitely agree. I would love to see them, going opposite directions. But I do also understand why they would probably need a few years under their belt of just getting one way down before trying to add in a whole other
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
definitely
thing
agree.
that could cause issues. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's
but I
totally
have faith they'll
understandable.
get there.
Again, it's a giant city, and it's so much of a city that it's got its own metro rail, basically.
I think it's just something that they are continuously improving year after year, because I was one of the first people to ride it back in 2022. And I was like, this is a tour of the Bonnaroo campgrounds. But then 2023, I rode it and it was just 10 improved. I mean, it was so
Yeah.
much better. And it's not perfect by any means, but it's just continuously improving year after year.
Yeah. So I'm more than willing to give them some wiggle room on that, because like if this year is better than last year, then yeah, we're getting much closer to what it really should
Right.
be.
Yeah.
And I think that's just something that we have to be patient on, because that is a complex operation. Like I feel like we need to be a little forgiving with that and just, be patient with it. I wouldn't necessarily rely on it as a way to get from like a far out camp to like the Arch or something like that. But if you've got, a couple of hours to kill and you just want to check out different plazas, then yeah, I would totally try Jump Tracks for that. I think that's where we're at. I think another year or two under our belts will give us the option of relying on it for like, must have transportation if
So
you're going to a show or something like
if you
that.
want to go see Pod 11.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. Yeah. All right. But here's Evan's other comment. He wanted to give him some praise. So this is what he said. I think we also need to give credit where it's due, since after 2022, their communication, outreach, and ability to listen to us and resolve and improve things has been second to none. And yeah, absolutely. That is
10,000.
a million percent agree.
10,000. Yes, agreed.
So let me give just a little bit of context. So us, as the whole Rubus thing and trying to do all the crazy stuff that we want to do, have been working with Bonnaroo in one way or another since what, 2017?
Mhm.
I'm going to try to not throw people under the bus and not trying to make a pun with that one. Yeah, I know.
Or is it 18?
Prior to the pandemic, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it was pulling teeth with them. It was a little bit of a bureaucratic process if you wanted to run something up the flagpole to make something happen in the campgrounds or whatever. These days, it feels like they're just an email or text away.
Mhm.
And other people who are actively involved in the community, I've heard this, commonly from everyone, they kind of agree with that. Back in the day, it was tough. After the pandemic, they are more than happy to have a conversation. You may not be able to have a phone call like day of or whatever, but you can plot one out and have a call with somebody who will listen to you and work with you on something. And I cannot praise them enough for that. I don't know any other festival that's doing something like that.
Now, we shouldn't just talk about us. I've noticed on Reddit, people get a lot more responses than they previously did, as far as emailing, as far as connecting with on social media. If they have a question, they get far greater responses and far more responses now than they ever did before. So just, I think their communication and their outreach and their marketing efforts especially has just improved so much over the past couple of years.
And I know sometimes people have sometimes valid critiques about the whole Live Nation side of things, which, let's be clear, I am no fan of monopolies or like giant businesses. I feel like it needs to be more distributed amongst as many businesses as possible. I'm going to kind of speak for them a little bit and say something that they can't necessarily say. They ask for forgiveness more than permission from corporate Big Daddy. Like, and they get away with a lot, and it's awesome. Like, they are not nearly as much as part of that corporate behemoth as people may think.
Right.
It's kind of the other way around sometimes. Like, we've seen how the meat gets made. It's not what y'all would expect. They throw a lot against the wall and see what works and don't have to listen to like shareholders or whatever,
I'm sure they do.
Well,
Wait, how many? Are you okay?
yes, I'm okay. Chelsea, I know this is kind of more of our ballpark, but did you have anything on this?
Well, over the last 3 years, I have actually written Bonnaroo via their Instagram, like through messaging, and probably 8, 9 times, and I've gotten a response every time within 3 days. So I think
Pretty
that's
good.
pretty gosh darn good.
That's pretty good.
Wow, that's amazing.
Wow. Yeah, seriously, we can't brag on them enough for that
Yeah.
sort of thing. They are so responsive and helpful of the community. And like I said, in the past couple of years, they have just gone above and beyond, and I can't brag on them enough. Like, that's one of the reasons this is one of the best communities around. All right, one last one. This comes from our buddy Base Wolf 808, but his comment is kind of representative of a lot of people. Here's what he says. I know we all missed the snaking line to get into Sinru. I'm a big high five guy, but credit where it's due, at least in my experience, security checks seem to be much smoother and efficient this past year than in years past. He thinks it could be tweaked to get those high fives, though. We did talk about this towards the end of our interview with
We did talk about the snake line with our interview.
So this is a pros and cons thing. Yeah. The system last year allowed for quick entry, but the con was we couldn't do the high fives. I feel like they could probably figure out some kind of way to make both happen.
Oh, I'm sure they can.
A middle ground of some kind.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of hoping that they find a way where we can actually go under the arch too. We didn't get to do that last year.
Yeah.
That was my big thing more than anything personally, was the fact that I was bringing some first timers and we didn't get to walk under the arch, and that just broke my heart to not do with some newbies, you know.
Yeah. And let's give them credit. It is a very tricky, like, social human traffic engineering or whatever, to get people through quickly. Those of us that were there in 22 remember the giant backup to get through the one security gate. I believe on some days the line was going all the way back to the House of Yes just to get into Center. It was a mess. So we do need to give them full credit that they figured out a way to get people through quickly without it being backed up so bad. Even if it was at the cost of us not being able to do high fives. It's like, which would you rather have? It's a very, very much pros and cons situation. But yeah, here's hoping that they can figure out a way for us to get both. So that's kind of a critique and a praise at the same time. It's so hard to get these things 100% right. Chelsea, what was the most that you waited to get in last year?
So I am a afternoon into Centeroo kind of girl. So the 3 years I've been, I've never had an issue personally, but then I'll sometimes have people from my group who are like, man, I had like a 45-minute wait or whatever, but this year I think just about everyone, and I was camped with 12 of us. Yeah, 12 of us.
Oh, wow.
No one in my group had a long wait this year like I heard about in 2022, 2019.
Yeah, 22 was the worst. It was pretty bad at sometimes. But yeah, again, credit where it's due. They fixed it. All right, we're going to jump to Twitter for a handful of these. We're going to run just a little long this time, but that's okay. These are good, valid inputs from everyone. So this is in no order. We're going to go with Justin first. He says, did work. They brought back the paper schedules. Fans in the tents are still awesome. Bringing back the second entrance was great. Didn't work. Bring back the pod balloons. Bring back the screens. Yeah, we talked about that. The pod balloons, that's an interesting one. I do miss those.
Okay. The pod balloons are not there because there is a worldwide helium shortage, and helium is now massively expensive. So to fill up those gigantic pod balloons, I cannot even imagine what the cost would be. But there's actually a worldwide helium shortage, and scientists think that helium is only going to last so many more years because helium is an element that is just, there's only so much of it. I don't know what it's called, but there's only so much of it. And that's why they don't have the balloons.
Well,
but
how are we going to make our voices sound squeaky?
I do think there needs to be something better, a little bit better, to indicate medical.
That's where I was going to go, is I just need something for medical. I'll live without balloons or signage for anything else except for medical.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Good
Exactly.
point.
Exactly.
And Justin mentioned the fans in the tents. Yeah, I just want to give that a big yes, I agree, because those come in clutch on hot days, because in the past it could get brutal if you were in this tent or that tent for a daytime show. So having those big ass fans, which literally that's the brand name of them, having them in there like helps so much. That was such a good call to bring those in a couple of years ago. All right, next up, from Bonnaroo of the Year last year, Pondo, you guys heard him a couple of weeks ago. He says, Love the Who stage placement. Also, they had kind of a new Who stage last year. It was a little bit of a tent. It was really cool. Yeah, yeah. He says, bring back the screens on the tent. Everybody agrees. Quit undervaluing tent only. High five lines must come back. Earlier start times for music. The Bonnaroo app worked so much better last year. He says more art is needed, and he feels like the silent disco has been forgotten, it seems. So a lot there from Pondo. We definitely value his opinion. He's a man about town and knows everything there is to know about
A
Bonnaroo.
legend.
Yeah, he is a legend. Look for him with the horns and the clock. I want to agree with him on one thing. More art is needed. It is Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival. I do feel like more art installations could really add a lot more flavor to things. The murals and stuff are cool, but I would love to see more like structures like you see at Coachella or something like that. Chelsea, anything from you on any of that?
Definitely agree. Who stage placement, much better. Really loved the stage. People do not overlook the acts there. Very much agree the silent disco being forgotten.
Yeah, it did feel a little overlooked last year, didn't it? It felt like it just got like a piece of a schedule, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Like in the past, it was a big deal. They would give it like really centered placement.
It was also way on back there in the back, and it used to be like right in the middle.
Mm-hmm. The silent disco, I know it isn't for everybody, but it's one of those things that add a lot of variety in Centeroo. We don't have things like we used to, like the comedy or cinema tent. And I understand why we don't. They've moved, those kind of resources out to the camps, and it's great for that. But the silent disco, I feel, could use a little bit more attention. It's a chicken and egg thing. Maybe they feel like not enough people are using it, but maybe they're not using it because they don't know about it or because it's not given a lot of support,
Yeah, if people aren't accidentally walking by it, I think a lot less people are going to show up than if it had a much more prominent location or one of those locations where a lot of people are just going to naturally walk by it and stop and enjoy. So I think it just needs a more central location.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So I'm going to move through a lot of these because a lot of people are kind of saying the same things that we've already talked about, talking about jam tracks or the high five lines or screen at the tent. But friend of the show and Totem board member Shayna had some good points. She talked about the entryway and everything, but she had a good point. She wants to have more recycling and trash cans by the entrance before you go through security. I think that's a very good point because people are realizing that they need to throw things out right before they get in, and it always makes for a big mess on the latter part of the weekend. I totally agree, especially having more recycling things there for people to throw stuff out to. And I want to add to that a little bit. I wish there was something where people could dump their liquid, because when people realize that they can't bring in a full bladder on their like Camelback or whatever, they throw it out right there and it becomes
the
like
man-made mud pits.
Yeah, it gets gross.
So gross.
Yeah. And she also mentioned having an additional water refill station at Where in the Woods. And Brad told us we can expect that.
We talked
We
about
gave him
it,
that
yes.
feedback and he was like, yeah, done. So we did it, team. Anything from you on those, Chelsea?
Well, I'll take any chance to talk about water.
Oh, go for it.
Yes, we definitely, and it doesn't even have to be like right inside of Where in the Woods, but even if it's just outside of it, it's so important for people to be hydrated. I mean, that is such a high percentage of what leads people to medical. And if you have Where in the Woods, which is where people are dancing their butts off to EDM music, you really, really need hydration there. So props to them for listening to that feedback and hopefully implementing it this year or at worst next year. So
yeah, speaking of Where in the Woods, I'll jump to the next one that Bree sent us. She says that she thinks there needs to be a wristband scanner for Where in the Woods. She was saying that some rotten stuff happened in there last year, and that might be accounted for if there was like, a way for people to scan in to make it safer in there. I think she might be right. That would help them account for how many people are in there so they can keep track of the traffic in and out and everything. And I do feel like that might cut out on any negative wookery that may be happening in there. Would you guys agree? Do you think there needs to be a scanner to get in there?
I
I
don't know.
hadn't thought about that. I'd only ever thought about if they could have another, even if it's just an exit, maybe not even an extra like entrance. If you just made another exit, I feel like that would help a lot. I hadn't thought about wristband scanning.
Right. Yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
Here's another one from Kyle, and this actually goes along with a pretty good article that Consequence posted today on January the 29th. We talked about this in Discord a little bit today. I think this is a valid point. He says that VIP has taken over the festival. I know we will only see that expand more, but it's starting to take away from the experience for GA. And we might post a link to that great Consequence article that was posted today, but it talked about kind of the economic factors. And this is a little bit more of a what podcast topic, but that is where they make a lot of money. And it does seem to me sometimes like it's starting to separate the haves and the have-nots a little bit more than it used to. Uh, Chelsea, have you noticed anything like that? Have you noticed the camp starting to be a little bit more separated?
I was actually thinking the exact opposite with the fact that now you have Moon Colony is where VIP used to be, and now that's actually open for anyone to walk in and out of. So my thought process was actually the exact opposite
Okay.
from that perspective. And as we know, a lot of newbies think that like the pit is like a VIP thing, and it's not. So I haven't noticed it too much, but maybe I'm just not looking for it.
Yeah, and this isn't really even a Bonnaroo problem. I think it's just an industry problem. And I don't know. This is one reason we started Totem, because we didn't want there to be so much economic disparity. We wanted people to have like an equal playing field for this kind of thing. And I would hate for there to be more of a separation between the haves and have-nots. I'm always reminded of that quote from John Lennon at a Beatles show. They were playing, I think, Shea Stadium, and he said that all of you in the back, clap your hands and have a good time, and all of those of you in the front, just rattle your jewelry. I think I've said that a time or two before, but I'm always reminded of that. All right, one last one. This is from Bay on Twitter, and I want to end on a good note. They said that the ice trucks that came around starting Thursday was a game changer. I had totally forgotten about that until I saw their tweet. Did you see those?
Oh, yeah. And they were playing Ice Ice Baby.
Yeah, they would play all of these like ice theme songs. It's cool because like the ice truck is something that everybody needs at least once or twice throughout the weekend. And for some people, it can be a hike. So for it to come to you like the ice cream truck in somebody's neighborhood in the
I
summertime,
totally forgot about that. You're
that was
right.
such a good thing for them to add. That was so cool. Did you ever see those, Chelsea?
Yeah, so I actually I'm out and about a lot, but I still managed to catch the ice truck near my camp twice last year. And it was just so nice to not have to do that little extra walk to go get ice and just be able to hang out at camp and enjoy my afternoon and not have to stress. It was so nice.
I would love to see them do more things like that, like ice cream truck style things, like one that brings pizza around.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah,
Oh,
just like different things. Like, hey, I'm going to sell you guys on a money-making idea right now. Have a truck that comes around selling the Bonnaroo merch, like t-shirts and things.
There's a guy.
Well, there's a guy, the bootleg shirts. But what if there was a truck that came around selling like the official merch, like the blankets and shirts, bandanas, lunchboxes,
I know
whatever?
a guy.
Yeah, those
maybe
guys.
I'm going too far, but Bonnaroo, hire me or partner with me, the Hygiene Queen, and we can have someone driving me around and I can hand out my Hygiene Queen stuff, your wet wipes and your
Hey.
toothpicks and your travel toothbrushes and things.
Yep.
Man, okay. I feel like we could really like expand on this idea, like trucks that bring things. That could work really good with the sponsors and everything. All right. We could go on all night about that.
You could put the bootleg guys out.
Yeah, put the bootleg guys out of business. All those weird guys that come around Sunday night, like, hey man, you need a lineup shirt.
They always ask it so creepily too. They always approach you so weirdly.
That is, yeah. That's like one of the weirdest hours, like when everything is closing up. That's when all the freaky stuff comes out. I think they were kind of washed out last year because of the storm and everything. I didn't see him as much.
No, I saw he came. I was the guy came in a monkey bar.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Like, hey man, you need
He came in
anything?
the corner.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just part of the scene, man. You see all these guys at like the shakedown streets at dead shows and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's weird, but it's part of it. We
Absolutely.
love it. Yeah. Just to wrap things up, I do want to end things by really bragging on them. The past couple of years, we talked about how they have really worked with community and listened to us and have been receptive to ideas and everything. But I want to brag on them for really diversifying the festival in a couple of ways. First off, it really has become like Wook Disney World. It's not just a music festival. They really have embraced like the et cetera, arts, whatever part of things, where there's like a million things to do out in the campgrounds and even in Cinderu these days. I feel like they have just gone above and beyond to make sure that there's a little bit of everything to do at all hours of the day, no matter where you are. And that work is just like, man, you just can't walk around without seeing something cool. And that's because of the work that they've put in for it. But also, I want to brag on them for making sure that it is the place that Brad bragged about when we had that interview with him, where you can be who you are and not have to worry about it. They have really gone above and beyond to be inclusive and welcoming of the LGBT community and just people of all walks of life. It's a place where you can go and feel welcome and loved no matter who you are. And I feel like that is something that no other festival can really come that close to touching, man. And it's because they have embraced it and encouraged it. And I can't brag on them enough for that. Charlotte, do you want to end on anything else you want to brag on them
I
for?
think you summed it up. I mean, they have just done a terrific job communicating, especially within the past few years, has been just tremendously improved. And like I was saying previously, not just with us, but just with everyone in general, with all the fans, with all the attendees in general. They've just done such a terrific job of communicating, especially for, having 80,000, 100,000 people there and being able to get an email response or get a response to a DM on Instagram. I mean, that is absolutely amazing.
They slide in people's DMs. I mean that in a good way, probably. Chelsea, how about you? Any last thing you want to brag on them for?
I just want to brag on them for daily entry.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I have got to brag on them for that, and I have to brag on them for not asking people to pay more, because every other festival I know who has early arrival, you pay a premium for that. They haven't made us do that yet, and it has helped so much with the flow of traffic.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest problem that they had to fix in recent years, because we had a couple of years there and people who got stuck on, what was it, Hillsborough Road?
Yeah.
They know what we're talking about.
17 and a half hours.
Oh my God.
Jeez.
But, it wasn't just attendees that were unhappy about that. From kind of the tea that I heard, the city and county was very much not happy about it. So it was a problem they had to fix. And my goodness, did they fix it? I don't think I've heard of anybody having a long wait, like over like an hour and a half to get in the past 2 years.
The most I've heard of.
3 hours?
Yeah.
I mean, that's still not bad considering what Chelsea just said, So I feel like,
and that was my first year and I still came back. So I think that says a lot, but I still just wanted to brag on them for that, since we hadn't brought it up, and it really helps, but then it also gives so many more possibilities of fun times to be had on the farm. So,
and we should also brag on them for having programming for all of the people that come in early too. There's stuff to do even if you come in on Tuesday. And I kind of hope that somebody will take the torch and plot something really good on Wednesday. Like, we're going to have an event on Wednesday, but it's not going to be like to the levels of Cherub last year. I hope that something else happens that's a big featured event for even as early as Tuesday night for people that come in that early, because it is a commitment from people that come in early, and they are helping Bonnaroo out by doing that. So I kind of feel like maybe there should be a little something extra and special for those that kind of take that burden away from them and help alleviate traffic. So that'd be cool. But guys, I think like we kind of did it 50-50 tonight. We talked a little bit about what could be improved, but I think we also bragged on them for things that they have done really well with, right? You think we hit a good ratio there, Charlotte?
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Chelsea, thank you so much for hanging out with us and helping us out with this tonight. Is there anything that you want to plug while you're on?
Just come join the Rubus Discord.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and again, you can find that. Go to the profile section of the Rubus on Twitter. Sharla has set up a link tree there where you can find that. So come be one of us and come have cheese with us, I suppose. All right. Thanks again, everybody. I feel like this was a good one. And again, we got to really brag on Bonnaroo. There is a lot right that they are doing. So I want to give you guys a heads up. We got some special episodes coming up here in the next month or so. So Sharla, you were working on your girls' night episode again, right?
Absolutely working on that. It's coming up very soon. So stay tuned.
Maybe next week.
Maybe.
Yeah. And I think we are going to do another Pride-centric episode before too long. It might be a month away, but I believe friend of the show and Huntsville neighbor, Eric, is going to be hosting that one for us. And, you know, he is known for his game show thing. So I don't know if he's doing that again, but I'm pretty much going to let him host that episode and take it away. So I don't even know what's coming up on that. He's going to decide. So again, some other fun stuff coming up. And also we are starting to do our homework for our next kind of history/documentary episode. That'll be coming up here. That's probably like 2 months away because we got to do a lot of research for that. But I would encourage new listeners to go back and listen to the ones that we did the past 2 years. We did one kind of like on the history of music festivals and one just on like kind of like the whole subculture. Go back and listen to those. Those are evergreen. We don't really talk much about that year's Rue. It's kind of like kind of sort of a documentary, kind of like a more NPR kind of show or something like that. So go listen to that and you will know what we're up to for this year. Chelsea, thanks again so much for hanging out with us tonight.
My pleasure, always.
All right. Did you hear that? My watch was like, you're welcome. Anyways, again, come hang out with us on Discord. Come hang with Chelsea and the rest of the crew. And until next time, get out there and radiate positivity. We'll see you soon.
Bye.